Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with a Pokemon video. I don't do too many of these on my channel, but I did want to do one now to kind of talk, slash give some predictions. Since we don't know a lot about Pokemon Sun and Moon, I did want to give some kind of thoughts about what I kind of want out of the game once we kind of, start to get news, and what I really hope it does and perhaps hope it doesn't do. So yeah, this is going to be a kind of general video, just me talking about what I kind of want Pokemon Sun and Moon to do. Don't expect too many Pokemon videos on my channel. I'll probably do a couple of you know, discussion analysis videos, like once we start to get the first, couple of Pokemon revealed. If there's any big new things that they're changing about the game, I'll do that. But don't expect it to be like a main thing on my channel. This is just kind of like random video every so often that I'm doing. I don't really talk about Pokemon too much on my channel, so just be aware of that. So yeah, getting straight into it, I think one of the things they absolutely need to do is bring back trainer customization. Everyone on YouTube that talks about Pokemon is saying this, and it just kind of has to happen, to the point where if it doesn't happen, like, how could they possibly not have known the reaction they were going to get? Because it's so obvious that everyone wants it. It was one of those, I suppose, major negatives about Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, that okay, it's a remake, that's the excuse, the character models are who they are, but it's not the best excuse. Like, really, you couldn't have just fit that in. And then if they do bring it back, like, improve it slightly, more options. As far as I remember from X and Y, I haven't played it in a little bit, but only certain towns had shops where you could buy clothes, and the clothes was actually fairly expensive. And I think it didn't unlock all at once, and there wasn't. Each shop had a very limited selection until towards the very end of the game. So I'd expand that out. Make the clothes, I think, a little bit cheaper, more options, just so you can customize yourself more or less from the start. Or I'd almost say, like, to the point where, like, okay, have the clothes shops, but like, have your character at the very beginning of the game be able to customize it at the start, not just male, female in your name. Like, actually choose like some starting clothes from like a basic set at the start, and then as you go through the game, you get the kind of fancier clothes relating to each town and that sort of thing. So that, I think, should be like a thing they absolutely do. I suppose the next most obvious thing is, of course, add more Mega Pokemon. That is very, like, obvious. It makes no sense why they wouldn't, because there's only a very select amount of Pokemon that have Mega Evolutions, and you look at them and it's like, okay, some of the starters, a lot of the more powerful Pokemon have even more powerful Mega Evolutions. A couple of Pokemon that kind of, I think, needed them got them, but in general, they haven't really. The thought process about, like, if a Pokemon needs a Mega Evolution to make them, I suppose, viable, like, in kind of competitive battling and, like, good, hasn't really kind of been there for the most part. In that, like, did Metagross really need a Mega Evolution? Did Garchomp really need a Mega Evolution? That sort of thing. Did Blaziken need it? Whereas, like, I think one of the things they should do is, at the very least, one more generation of starter Pokemon should get Mega Evolutions in this game, if not like two. In that, like, we have 1 in 3 so far. All the starters have Mega Evolutions. Do two. I think a lot of people like really like Typhlosion, but he's not the best Pokemon. So like a Mega Typhlosion would be actually really interesting. Meganium again isn't the best Pokemon. Mega Evolution would make it somewhat decent. Swampert's actually an okay Pokemon, but again, a Mega Evolution would really, I completely, I just said Feraligatr, sorry, my mistake. Mega Feraligatr, again, Feraligatr is actually an okay Pokemon, but a Mega Evolution would, maybe add a new typing to it, or just add some new moves, new stats would make it, like, so much more interesting. Gen 4 starters would be a nice thing to do. Apart from Serperior, the Gen 5 starters don't tend to get a lot of love either, so they could potentially use that as well. Or, even if you really wanted to go for it, just do it for the Generation 6 Pokemon, the new ones. But I'm not really sure if they'll do that. I think they'll probably stick to some of the earlier generations if they're going to do it. Then as for other Pokemon, a lot of the really popular ones that people are saying are like Flygon, which, Flygon's a pretty good Pokemon. Mega Evolution would make it like a really solid pick, I think. I think Raichu should probably get one at this point, just because, the whole Pikachu is like the mascot Pokemon, and you reflect on it now, and it's kind of like, okay, you have this kind of non-fully evolved Pokemon as your like kind of a franchise mascot, but it evolves into Raichu, and like the main character in the anime, Ash, like he still has a Pikachu that he won't evolve on purpose. Um, and so a lot of people tend to prefer Pikachu over Raichu, and like there's that whole light ball item that is specific for Pikachu that kind of makes him powerful. But if Raichu is an okay Pokemon, but like a Mega Raichu, I think would like be like okay. Suddenly, the Pikachu line can now be used in like full-on competitive battling. A lot of people would see it as a popular choice for an electric Pokemon. I think that's a good thing to do. And for my own personal taste, like I'd like to see something like a Mega Starmie or something like that. Starmie is already quite good, but I just think in terms of a design kind of from a design point of view, I think they could do something pretty impressive with Mega evolving Starmie, and then after that, I would look at Pokemon who are fully evolved but have really low, base stat totals that like are like in mid 400s and not very great. I had a quick look through like the list, and like it's stuff from like Generation One, like Hypno for example. I think it's like 435 or something like that base stat total. It's really not that great. A Mega Hypno I think would actually work because Hypno doesn't really feel like a fully evolved Pokemon because it's quite basic, and that sort of thing. Even like a lot of those kind of Pokemon that are kind of standalone, like Heracross and Pinsir have Mega Evolution, but before that they were just basic Pokemon. Do that. I think you could do that to a lot of the other basic Pokemon, like Generation 5, that Durant Pokemon, the Steel type. I think that would make a good candidate. Mr. Mime, like just to make something interesting, I think could work. And just in general, I think a lot of the grass, there's a ton of like 3 to 2 part grass Pokemon evolutionary lines that you could probably add Mega Evolution and perhaps a new typing just to make them more interesting. Because a lot of those like random grass Pokemon tend to get forgotten because there's just so many of them, and grass is probably one of the worst typings for like competitive battling. So, I think I'd want them to be a little bit more varied, I suppose, in their selections for Mega Pokemon, rather than what it's been right now, which is kind of like the starters, and then a lot of the really powerful Pokemon like Garchomp, Metagross, and stuff like that. Like, I'd be interested if they did like a Mega Dragonite, but at the same time, like, that's really not the Pokemon he needed it. Like, you've made an already good Pokemon just even better, and it's not really, I suppose, adding, too much to the game. But going into the next thing I'd say about it is that I think what they really should do is add in some options somewhere to increase the difficulty for the game. X and Y was very easy, and I know a lot of people, all your other YouTubers have been saying like, oh, it's all down to the way they did the experience share in the game. You turn it on and it gives experience to all of your Pokemon, and it just made training your Pokemon too easy. You were over leveled. I see the problem more being less how quickly you can level up, and more that the trainers that you encounter along the way are not strong at all. Like, the game is so easy because none of the trainers during the like story of a Pokemon game like ever really switch out, ever really use any sort of strategy beyond the basic. If a Pokemon has an obvious weakness, you use an attack that targets that weakness, and immunities and stuff like that, resistances. No, just the basic AI of kind of them knowing that. They never do like switches when you switch in Pokemon to use your strategy against them. And so a lot of the time you can just blow through the game completely with just like 6 very offensive based Pokemon that has a good type coverage. Like, during any Pokemon game, you have basically no need for a defensive Pokemon. For the most part, no need for like stat boosting moves. Can be useful at times, but you have no use for like status condition moves for the most part, because you're not really trying to desperately stop some like crazy Pokemon and stuff like that. So you know, I do the difficulty less like about the levels and more about just the general how good is the AI of the opposing battler. A lot of it is I think as well the gym leaders are very were very simple in X and Y, and you know until not until like extremely late into the game did you ever fight trainers who had six Pokemon. I'm not remembering it correctly, but as far as I'm aware, like the Elite Four in Generation Six, like all four of them all used five Pokemon, and then it was only like the champion that used six. So I'd say like introduce more trainers using six Pokemon earlier on. Have their teams be based around a certain strategy, I think, um, and stuff like that. Just make the battling in the game a lot more interesting than you going in, and even if your Pokemon is at a huge type disadvantage, you can just attack them because they're not going to do anything overly impressive to try and defeat you. Most of the time in the story, the only times you'd ever like lose Pokemon would be because you've run out of healing items. There's no Pokemon Center like really nearby, and you're kind of like forced into a battle. And that's really the only time you'd ever be in any danger in Pokemon X and Y. Just the sheer like grind of not having any healing with you. So some sort of a thing to just boost up the difficulty level, because a lot of people who are going to be playing Pokemon Sun and Moon are going to be people who know how to battle properly. Give them somewhat of a challenge, and that's definitely something I'd want. And that I really liked X and Y. It was just very easy, and I don't think it was down to the experience share. I think it was just down to um, the trainers were very basic. I think the only time in my playthrough of X and Y that I ever kind of um, was sent back to the Pokemon Center because like all my Pokemon died was because of a Sky battle. Like I think it was one of the first Sky battles I ever did. I only had like one flying Pokemon and I just caught it. So when I went into a Sky battle against a trainer with like three Pokemon, I think they had I can't remember the exact Pokemon, but it was like a Pokemon, a flying Pokemon with an electric move, and so I was at a huge disadvantage. That was the only time I kind of lost in X and Y really. So definitely increased the difficulty levels in the battling, which I suppose links into my next topic, which is what do you do in the post game. So you defeat the Elite Four, you maybe train up again and defeat the Elite Four on their like higher difficulty level, higher level Pokemon. Um, what's next after that? They've tried to do stuff in the past two games with regards to these kind of episode things. They're more kind of story focused, but again, the battles weren't all that impressive for the most part. Um, I definitely be of the like impression that like I'd want them to have some sort of another challenge, maybe another region. Like I think a lot of people are kind of hoping that okay, we have this new generation set in a new region, and then after that we go back to Kalos because we didn't have a Pokemon Z, of course, so we didn't really. Six is going to be like one of the shortest generations ever. So go back to six, go through that at a higher level, experience a difficult Kalos basically, and get that. That way, you have two full, getting your 8 badges, fighting the Pokemon League, and I think that would be really cool because I think a lot of people really like Gold and Silver because it has that extra bit at the end. And that's absolutely, I think, going to be needed in this because as much as I think they'll improve upon X and Y, and that I think they've been talking about how, like, this is the game they've been wanting to make for a very long time, and it kind of makes it feel like X and Y was more of like this kind of experiment type game where it was like, okay, we've made all the 3D Pokemon models, and that was kind of the whole aim of X and Y. And now we have them made. Now we can make the game based around them. So hopefully they'll incorporate that plus the new stuff in, and make it a lot better. As well as that, add in stuff like a better, like whatever you want to call it, Battle Frontier, Battle Tower, something that is kind of more focused around kind of competitive battling versus the AI. Like like earlier on when I was saying that I want the general AI in the game to be improved, I'm not saying I don't want every single trainer battle in the game to be a competitive, like 6-on-6 battle where, like, if you don't have the right counter to the right Pokemon or you're Pokemon don't have the right equip items, you're gonna lose. I'm not saying that, but like just this idea that if you send in like a fire Pokemon against their Steel type, they're gonna switch out to something that can potentially resist it, which doesn't really tend to happen in the game. That's the sort of difficulty level I'm kind of expecting a little boost in the actual game. I'm aware that obviously the kind of battle chateau, those type of things, once you get to the higher levels of those, the opposing Pokemon trainers do begin to have, held items and, little combo moves and stuff like that. But a lot of the time those are like 3-on-3, so you're very limited, and if you don't have the right three Pokemon, you won't win. So there's that. This one I think probably isn't very feasible to happen, but it's something I'd like to happen, and that is just like, okay, in recent generations, once again, they've made huge steps forward in terms of making IV breeding and EV training a lot easier to do. Especially the little mini game you could do in the last game in X and Y to do the EV training easily. That's perfect. That's great that you can EV train that easily. IV breeding is still a kind of difficult thing to learn and do, and it's very time consuming to get the Pokemon you want, because stats at a competitive level are very important. So I'd kind of be like, can we have some sort of a like test battle mode where you don't have to have the Pokemon caught, but like you can just go into this test battle place in the game and basically be like, okay, I want to fight with this team of this Pokemon, even if I don't own them, I'm going to choose these ones. Okay, I want max stats on this stat, these moves. Like you basically build your own Pokemon team, but it's kind of just for that battle. I suppose kind of what I'm asking is, the online, website, the program Pokemon Showdown. I'm basically asking for that to be kind of in the game as a kind of test battle thing. Of course, like the official tournaments and stuff like that, you'd have to train the Pokemon yourselves, but just a better way to properly, test the stuff, I think would be better, because otherwise you are basically telling most of your fans to like use these websites like Pokemon Showdown, and otherwise just like hope that you train the Pokemon that you need very well, and then if it turns out that actually this Pokemon doesn't fit in my team, you've just wasted like 30 hours of hatching eggs to get your full 31 IV Torchic or whatever. So it's something like that to just like give you a way to go like, okay, I figured out this is the team I want. I am going to go for these 6 Pokemon. These are the 6 ones I'm going to try and properly in-game breed and get up to speed so I can enter the competitions, that sort of thing. Just to make it a little bit easier for competitive Pokemon battling. So that's more or less the main ones I wanted to cover. The only other thing I'd say is just X and Y was good because there was a few Pokemon in there that had some new interesting typing. I think for the next game, lean into that a little bit more. Don't just have the game follow the exact same structure as the previous ones, where like, okay, of course you're going to start off with your starter Pokemon. It's going to be, at least one of its typings is going to be water, grass, or fire, of course. But make the starter typings interesting, like they've been fairly recently, but do something a little bit different. But I think one of the best things about X and Y was that like one of the first Pokemon you encountered was Fletchling, which was a fire and flying Pokemon. Straight away you have your flying Pokemon, so you can have fly for later on in the game, but it's a fire type as well. Do something like that, like just more often throughout the game. Don't have your Rattata in the game, or whatever you want to call it, just be a normal type. Have it be, a Darkin normal, or whatever. Just really like expand on a lot of that, and have more types available, more variety throughout the game, and not have it just be the case where like, okay, this Pokemon that I want on my team isn't available until the 7th gym. Just I'd kind of be like, okay, better variety of Pokemon throughout the game, and so you can have a much more varied team, because otherwise I think a lot of people, when you look at their playthrough, their like story playthrough of any of these games, more than likely they probably have a very similar team in general. In that, like, I think most people in X and Y have their starter, probably a Talonflame at the end, and they probably kept their fossil Pokemon that they got, so Tyrantrum or Ouroboros, that sort of thing, and there wasn't a whole lot of variety like after that, just because of the way the game kind of through the different areas feeds you Pokemon. So you're not really going to get to the eighth area and suddenly decide that, oh yeah, I'm going to change like four members of my team because of this area has four new Pokemon. So I'd be like, okay, better variety early on so I can get a team going. But again, that's really only works if they're actually going to challenge you with the battles as they go forward. So I'm going to end the video there. Don't want to make it like overly long, but definitely I think there are improvements that you can make going into this game. Add in the obvious new stuff that's going to get people excited and the Mega Pokemon and stuff like that. Which actually reminds me, the other kind of topic relates to the anime that potentially is going to be the key thing in this game, and that is obviously this idea of these human Pokemon kind of synchronization kind of evolutions. The main example being in the recent Pokemon anime, Ash has a Greninja, and at times during really tough battles when Greninja's losing, Ash can get really fired up and into the battle supporting Greninja, and Greninja basically, I think he's like, he's engulfed in water, and then when the water goes away, Greninja is changed in that the markings on his head are very similar to like the fact that Ash wears a red cap. The markings over his body are kind of very similar to Ash's clothing, and I think they call it like in the show like Ash's Greninja, like he becomes Ash Greninja, and there's this idea that because their bond is so close that during these tough battles, Greninja like takes on some of the characteristics of Ash, and so the Pokemon and trainer are like one, and that makes Greninja powerful enough to take on like a Mega Evolution, I think is what happens in one of the battles. That is an interesting concept, but given that Mega Evolution has been your last big concept, I really don't want them to go down this road where like every Pokemon is going to have a trainer synchro form and a Mega form. I'm kind of almost hoping that will eventually in the anime be revealed, that just Ash is somehow managing to activate Mega Evolution without a Mega Stone or something like that. But I think there's some of the Pokemon mangas as well recently have done something similar. So it's a hard one. Like, I get that they probably want to do that because it's a big thing in the anime, but I don't know how I feel about it if it's going to be a wide-ranging thing or if it's just going to be an anime-specific thing, and perhaps perhaps just a fun way to have stuff to make Pokemon unique, like make event Pokemon and stuff like that they can give out in like Wi-Fi events, that like, okay, you can get Ash's Greninja, which is basically just a normal Greninja, but it has this one special move, or something like that, just like Ash's Pikachu, I suppose, but that's a different story, and that this is like a more physical change. But yeah, that's all I really wanted to say in this video. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are. What do you really hope Pokemon Sun and Moon do that's different? But yeah, other than that, my next video will probably be when any proper news is announced about it. Most likely me talking about the first couple of Pokemon that are revealed, but because not a lot's already been said about the game right now. So yeah, other than that, thanks for watching, and bye.